Breaking news alert.
Breaking right at 6, what began as peaceful protests in St. Louis got out of hand overnight. Demonstrators angry over the acquittal of a white police officer and the shooting death of a black man took to the streets. Chris Martinez has more on what happened.
Late-night demonstrations in St. Louis grew unruly Friday night with tear gas canisters and vandalism at the mayor's home. Protesters broke windows and threw red paint on Mayor Lyda Krewson's house. Police were finally able to push them back. Earlier, the crowd burned American flags. Demonstrators are angry over the acquittal of a white police officer in the 2011 shooting death of a black man.
I believe Black Lives Matter, but obviously our justice system does not believe that.
Multiple cameras caught the high-speed chase and collision involving former St. Louis patrolman Jason Stockley and suspected drug dealer Lamar Smith. Stockley says he shot Smith in self-defense, claiming Smith was pulling a gun on him. But prosecutors say Stockley got a gun from the backseat of his cruiser and planted it in Smith's car after shooting him. The judge said he was not convinced of Stockley's guilt.
At the end of the day, the court applied the right standards and to the facts, and they came up with the right conclusion.
Protesters disagree, and some say they'll keep at it until their voices are heard.
Time and time again, we've called for justice, we've called for peace, we've called for, reform. And every time we have been, we've been disregarded. At
least 2 police officers were treated for injuries after being hit by bricks Friday night. Chris Martinez, CBS News.
That summer feeling is back for your Saturday. What about those summer storms? Meteorologist Ellen Fritz is here to break down those chances in her First Alert forecast. Ellen.
Good morning, Stephen. The summer heat is back, but the storms for today, no, not at all. You're not going to have to worry about that because First Alert Doppler completely clear this morning, and it's going to stay that way all day long. Now, what you are going to have to keep a little bit of an eye on, especially west of 75, some patchy fog and some haze. Take a look at current visibilities around a mile in Napoleon, just a little below that in Defiance, same in Bryan, but Toledo at 4 miles, so not too bad near the Toledo, Bowling Green, Findlay area, but just a little bit of patchy fog that'll be cleared up by the time you really get your day started. So let's plan out your day. This morning in the mid-50s there, the sunshine will be coming up over the horizon soon enough. By midday, you're really going to feel that heat, partly sunny skies, and into the afternoon, going to be right around 80 degrees. So the summer heat does arrive today, and there are storms on the horizon as early as this weekend. I'll break down when in my hour-by-hour forecast, but for now, I'll send it back over to Stephen.
Ellen, thanks so much. Back to breaking news. A driver recovering from this crash. We were first on scene at Secor and Lasky in West Toledo after 2 a.m. Police say a motorcyclist crashed into a stalled pickup in the intersection. That driver now recovering at the hospital. The pickup driver was not hurt. Police are still searching for the person who shot 2 teens. This happened on Hyatt Lane Thursday night in central Toledo. Police say they found the 15-year-old and 16-year-old boys both shot in the leg. They're expected to be okay. Now, if you have any information, you're asked to call Crime Stopper. That number is 419-255-1111. A woman accused of shooting another at the grocery store now behind bars. Sierra Aldaco is accused of shooting a woman in a wheelchair at Express Food Mart on South Avenue Thursday. Police say the shooting happened during a parking lot fight. The woman shot is expected to be okay. President Trump says our options for dealing with North Korea both effective and overwhelming. This in response to Thursday's missile launch over Japan. David Martin has more on the act of defiance.
Until now, North Korea had tested its intermediate and intercontinental range missiles from fixed launch pads. This time, for the first time, an intermediate range missile was launched from a mobile transporter. A significant development since it enables Kim Jong-un to fire a long-range weapon with little or no warning. In this case, though, spy satellites had seen the missile being rolled into position at an airfield near Pyongyang well before the actual launch, as if Kim was deliberately trying to avoid catching the U.S. off guard. The missile flew more than 2,000 miles over northern Japan and into the Pacific Ocean. A Pentagon official said it was no coincidence the missile flew far enough to reach the U.S. airbase on Guam had it been fired in that direction. The launch came 3 days after the UN Security Council enacted new economic sanctions against North Korea. And it is becoming increasingly clear sanctions will not work fast enough to prevent North Korea from acquiring a nuclear arsenal. Earlier this week, a Treasury Department official showed Congress how easily North Korea evades the ban on coal exports. In June, a ship left port in China. Halfway to North Korea, it turned off the transponder, which allows it to be tracked. It pulled into North Korea, where it was caught by a satellite as it loaded coal. The ship returned to the point where it had turned off the transponder, switched it back on, and proceeded to a port in Russia, leaving a track which looked like it had gone straight from China to Russia. Both U.S. and UN officials say the only step that will make sanctions work is to give navies the power to stop and search vessels suspected of carrying banned goods to and from North Korea. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
All eyes still on algal blooms in Lake Erie. Friday, the National Wildlife Federation held a water quality seminar at Maumee Bay State Park. This gave people a chance to get a front row seat to the bloom on Lake Erie. The Wildlife Federation says it's important for people to see this up close. They also say it's time for the government to step in and save the lake.
You know, folks need to see what's at stake, needs to see the resource at stake, and we need to communicate with the Trump administration. We need to communicate with Congress to save Lake Erie.
The National Wildlife Federation also says we need to push for innovation to cut down on pollution. Today, you can support the fight against ovarian cancer. Registration for the 13th annual Ellen Jackson Ovarian Cancer Walk starts up at 8 a.m. Then the walk kicks off at 10 a.m. on the University of Toledo Medical Campus Center. Our own Jerry Anderson will be out there serving as the MC. You can find more on the walk on our free WTOL 11 news app. Halloween's returning to Cedar Point today. This year's 21st annual event includes haunted mazes, outdoor fright zones, parades, and more. Halloween's will run every weekend through October 29th. This weekend, you'll get a chance to get a sneak peek at downtown Toledo's newest apartment building. The Warehouse District is having an open house. Dick Berry has a preview.
What was once a grocery warehouse has been turned into an apartment building in downtown Toledo's growing warehouse district. The 5-story Burdan building at Washington and Erie Streets opened in 1902 and had sat vacant since 1985. There are now 115 one- and two-bedroom apartments and studios nearly complete and available for rent. It's expected to fill up with millennials and empty nesters, pushing the population in the district to nearly 1,000.
Everybody's wanting to move downtown. They want to have easy access to the things that they do, go to restaurants, baseball games. People want that lifestyle where they can walk everywhere.
The Burdan building is one of 7 stops on Sunday's annual Wander the Warehouse District Tour. The demand for residential housing in the district cannot be met. The goal is to build on the district's rich and powerful history, returning the area to a hub of activity that includes new businesses.
You know, we've been at this for over 15 years. People think it's an overnight success, but really it's been one building at a time with someone taking a risk and making an investment.
Sunday's Wander the Warehouse District is a way to introduce folks to the area and attract new residents. It runs from noon to 4. Tickets are $12. I'm Dick Berry, WTOL 11.
It's a clear start to your Saturday, but how long will this warm-up last? Ellen breaks that down in her First Alert forecast next.